Hello, my dear friends. Today, Breaking Brain and Adam Grant think again. This is an invitation to let go of knowledge and opinions that are no longer serving you well and to anchor your sense of self in flexibility rather than consistency. If you can master the art of rethinking, I believe you will be better positioned for success at work and happiness in life. Thinking again can help you generate new solutions to old problems and revisit old solutions to new problems. It's a path to learning more from the people around you and living with fewer regrets. A hallmark of wisdom is knowing when it's time to abandon some of your most treasured tools and some of the most cherished parts of your identity. Adam Grant, 4 parts and 11 chapters. No worries, I try to make a long story short. Please stay with me. You can ask, what for do you need rethinking? First of all, personal. You need to learn how to open your mind up to new and diverse sources of ideas. If you can become better at personal or individual rethinking, it will serve you well over the course of your career. The second, interpersonal. If you can encourage the people closest to you to think again more frequently, that will result in better and richer relationships. The third, collective. If you can create a community of lifetime learners at your workplace and in your other social interactions, that can lead to some impressive steps forward. Are you ready? Think again is an exploration of the importance of adapting a rethinking mindset rather than a thinking skill set. Grant argues that our tendency to cling to our beliefs is ineffective. The world is always changing, and if we are not willing to change with it, we will fall behind. So, the best way to adapt to an ever changing environment is to embrace rethinking. Moreover, we can encourage others, including the members of our team, to implement this approach. Grant suggests one more role that may help us to realize our cognitive potential. Scientists live to comprehend the limits of their knowledge, and we can learn from them to improve our thinking process. Being a scientist means conducting experiments, testing hypotheses, abandoning old beliefs, and embracing new truths. Grant insists that having a change of heart isn't a weakness. On the contrary, it validates your intellectual development. To get ready for rethinking, you should anchor yourself in flexibility rather than consistency. Humans tend to have strong convictions and are proud that they stick to them. Grant believes this works in a world that is static and reliable. The issue is that we live in an ever changing environment. We have to focus on rethinking rather than just thinking. Grant also points out that rethinking is a skill set but can also be described as a mindset. People have a tendency to hold on to old views rather than accepting new ones. We succumb to the comfort of conviction over the anxiety of doubt. We listen to ideas that make us feel good instead of those that makes us think hard. It's human nature to make plans. We have visions of where we want to live, what person we want to marry, or how large we want our family to be. With all of this in mind, we tend to set boundaries. In the best case scenario, they help us achieve our goals. More often, however, they give us tunnel vision and prevent us from seeing better possibilities. What's even worse, if our plan doesn't go the way we envision, we usually start spending more time and resources to fix things. Alternatively, we could ask ourselves a simple question: was this a good plan? To question your plan instead of executing it at any cost is the essence of thinking. Determination to succeed is great, but it has the opposite result. if it leads to mental rigidity. Collective rethinking is also about changing organizational cultures. A culture of collective rethinking encourages psychological safety, for instance, the ability of team members to take risks without fear of punishment. In these types of teams, employees are more willing to report problems. The team can change its mind collectively based on the information obtained from its mistakes. An organization that respects collective rethinking checks the following boxes. 1. It avoids best practice as it assumes the team has arrived at an optimal solution. This type of belief will prevent effective rethinking. 2. There's no obsession with results. Such an obsession might help in the short run but will impact long term success. Organizations should remember that good outcomes are not always the result of good decisions. 3. Every team member is willing to ask themselves and others, how do you know? Organizations that successfully embrace learning culture welcome experiments. For them, rethinking becomes an integral part of their activities. Eventually, it becomes routine. Knowledge isn't frozen in time. Things we deemed correct 20 years ago now may seem outdated. When we acquire it, knowledge, we either trust what we learn or retain a skeptical aptitude. Skeptics focus on things that are left out instead of things that are in focus. This approach helps keep their minds open and promotes rethinking. Many tend to equate skeptics and deniers. However, there is a fundamental difference between the two. Skeptics don't trust the new information they learn. They will take their time to establish the credibility of these newly learned facts before they can believe them. Deniers, on the other hand, reject anything they learn from external sources. They believe that only their opinions are true. Think Again also takes a closer look at the role of a teacher in learning. A good teacher gives us food for thought. A great teacher helps us find new ways of thinking. The instruments we can use in evolving our thinking process are fact changing, rejection of popularity as a proxy for credibility, and differentiation between a source of information and its sender. Grant provides a specific example of how questions alone can be highly effective. In his example, a woman has given birth to a premature child. The mother is against vaccination, but her child would benefit hugely from a measles vaccine. To change her mind, a vaccine whisperer was enlisted. This person used motivational interviewing to help reassure the mother and help her rethinking her stance. The three pillars of motivational interviewing are open-ended questions, reflective listening, and encouragement to change. An interviewer doesn't try to persuade or advise. Instead, they act as a guide to help lead an interview to a beneficial conclusion or decision. The main trait of motivational interviewers is that they don't leave a know-it-all impression. Rather, they induce their interlocutors to feel smart. Rivalries an indispensable part of our lives. They exist in sport, business, interpersonal relationship, and so on. The major problem with rivalries is that we distance ourselves from the people we compete against. Emotions underline rivalries. If we add them to the equation, we can clearly see that they keep us from finding common ground with the opposing camp. It is natural for people to seek affiliation with some team or side in a rivalry. However, once we become a member of this team, we expose ourselves to polarization. In other words, we establish connections exclusively with other people in this group rather than with outsiders. In the process of bonding with teammates, our opinions get entrenched even deeper. When rivals attempt to challenge our views, we respond with hostility. Think Again offers free exercise to help us rethink our rivalries. Number 1. Find a common identity with your opponents. Number 2. Spread empathy toward the entire group after applying it to a single member. Number 3. Understand that our stereotypes are arbitrary. Dances with Foes: How to Win Debate and Influence People. Grant starts this section by offering the example of an international debate champion. By using these simple techniques: common understanding, non-judgmental questions, and flexible thinking, Grant describes this effective strategy as the collaborative approach. It utilizes humility and curiosity to lead the audience to think like scientists. Still, people often adopt the adversarial approach in debates, which relies on the preacher and prosecutor modes of communication. To help others rethink their beliefs, Grant recommends avoiding overwhelming rational arguments like a logic ballet would use. Even if you are correct, the other part will be left feeling bitter. A more effective approach is finding common ground and expressing curiosity by asking questions. These questions let the other person draw their own conclusions, and this is more powerful than crushing them with logic or reason. The Good Fight Club: The Psychology of Constructive Conflict. Since we can't avoid conflicts, we need to learn how to manage them. Adam Grant explains two types of conflicts. First of all, task conflicts. They occur when members of a specific team decide who should tackle a problem, what should be done, and how. This type of conflict is constructive because it prompts the seeking of creative solutions. The second, relationship conflicts. These occur between people. Often these conflicts are detrimental because they impact interpersonal relationships negatively. However, if the parties to an argument show respect for one another, they may end up with a higher degree of compassion and cooperation. Our society tends to regard pliability, or a tendency to avoid conflicts, as a positive threat. The author disagrees with this perception. He believes that people who are not afraid to show disagreement with our opinions actually push us forward. They help us evaluate our abilities and find ways of improvement. People hate being wrong. When someone indicates errors in our beliefs or ways of thinking, many of us will react in anger. We can easily see when someone else is wrong, but we don't want to admit it. Then we are not always right. We fearlessly defend when we believe in. Psychology calls our unwillingness to change our views totalitarian ego. Over time, we develop such a strong attachment to our beliefs that we don't want to let them go. Grant distinguished between two types of harmful attachments. The first one describes our affection for the past. We should learn to detach our present selves from the older versions. If we do so, we can avoid depression. We will be able to clearly see the direction we are moving in, and this will bring us more joy. Along with this renewal in time, we should separate our identity from our beliefs. Otherwise, when we experience a major change in our worldview, our identity is going to shatter simply because we find out we were wrong. Grant suggests that we develop a system of values instead. This will allow us to change our beliefs while staying true to our values. In this case, being wrong won't cause an identity crisis. Thank you so much.